I love every black person in this country to get $1 million check and 100 acres of land. Absolutely. Are they owed that amount? 100%, if not more. Black people, okay, who would get that,
Yeah.
it would bankrupt the whole country.
For the people that built the country to make you that fuck money, all of a sudden now you worried about being bankrupt when you spend trillions of dollars on defense, trillions of dollars on unnecessary, trillions of dollars to send black men, especially to jail, trillions of dollars to drug the fuck up our whole country, trillions of dollars to fuck the food up, to fuck air up, to fuck the water up, trillions of dollars to make people sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker in this country, but you mad? We don't have the money because plain and motherfucking simple, you do not like black people. It is very obvious. For hundreds of years, we've been the most hated. Within that hatred comes the hypocrisy of loving our culture. You've made trillions off of our motherfucking culture. White musicians, all of them have made money off of black fucking culture. All of rock, all of jazz, all the shit we created from the oppression, which is in itself. The oppression and the fucking abuse and the rape and the putting down of us, we create blues, jazz, rock and roll, reggae, ska. We invent all of that shit. And to top it off, we invent all the mod that you all use. From the video game cartridge, Henry Lawson. We got the pacemaker, Otis Boykin. We have the late Dr. Bath, who created the laser eye surgery. We have Dr. Gladys, who's still alive, who's almost 80 years old, who created GPS. We have the guy who created the algorithm for Instagram, who's a 21-year-old Ghanaian kid. We've done all this. Then the internet was discovered by a Nigerian guy in the 80s. Like, we've done all of this innovation, even though we've been shit on and continue to be shit on every motherfucking day, right? Because nobody wants us to live anywhere. Nobody wants us to have this unless we're playing sports for them athletically or sexually satisfying. All black people are good for. We're supposed to be at people's beck and fucking call when they want us to entertain them or make them some kind of money. But if we ask for being autonomously wealthy on our own, being autonomously having our own all of a sudden everybody pitches everybody has a fucking hissy fit. You don't want us in your neighborhood. You don't want us in your schools. You don't want us doing anything. But then when we say, hey, okay, that's cool, because Muhammad Ali said, hey, man, I think we should have our own state. I don't want to live amongst you. Like, well, why not? You don't want us around. You're segregating everything. And then as soon as we want to go, white people start panicking. You know, we don't want to be around you, so you can call us. We're tired of white cops shooting us. We're tired of this pissing contest that these white cops have because they're afraid of black dicks for some reason. Because most of this shit, black dick envy. We're tired of that. So what about this? Why don't we just give us what you owe us and we can go on and do our own shit? But no, they don't want that. White folks especially hate autonomous black happiness. They do not like when we are by ourselves doing our own shit. They cannot stand that. They don't even like us in a group. Whites always got to have their hand in our shit. And if they're not part of it, then we're back to being spoons and spades and all this other.
Shalom. Giving all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to you, hopefully elect. I'm your brother Yahweh Call from Great Millstone, Orlando. You know, with all that being said, you know, here it is. Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai created us, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, to be like him, you know, being his sons and his daughters. But here it is, our people want to be like the heathen. They want to be like the other nations. And it only makes sense why the Lord scattered us amongst these nations. He gave us over to these other nations. You know, thinking about it, we deserve this ass whooping. You know, we asked for this ass whooping. You know, because here it is again. These other nations, they don't have bragging rights like we do. You know, again, Yahweh Shema Shah, he's only dealing with his people. He's only for his people. You know, and with that, of course, is going to come jealousy is going to come envy. And this is why all these nations, starting with Esau, Edom being on the top of that list, they conspire against the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. They do everything, spend on top of resources to keep us deplugged from our source, our power source, because they know, and that's why I often talk about how, the number one threat to this society, to this system, is an Israelite man, and even more so an elect man, because it's nothing for hell, even when it comes to 2/3. Now granted, of course, as it is written, 2/3 are not going to make it. All right. But nevertheless, it is nothing for Yahweh Shema Shai to put his spirit on an Israelite man and raise him up to be a prophet unto the nations. And that's why there's such a great plot employed against more so the elect. All right. But nevertheless, overall, just keeping us down as a nation of people, keeping us detached as much as possible from our power source. All right. Being at Esau, again, he's on the top of that list because, these nations, we get on Esau, but these nations, they all had a hand to play. But, Esau, he's known as the accuser, of the brethren. He makes it impossible for us to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments perfectly. All right. But that's all right. That's why, the Heavenly Father set it up to where Yahweh Shai is our mediator. And the elect regardless will be covered. So, however you look at it, the elect win at the end of the day. All right. In which by default, all Israel wins. Which again, these nations, they can't stand. All right. Because, what I think about is the fact that, again, our people are on the bottom, and being that we're on the bottom, and being that this is the lowest we've ever been as a nation of people. Here it is. Look at how great we are as a people. Even being on the bottom, and just can't help but to think, when the Lord puts us back on top, man, you see our people on the bottom. Imagine when we're put back on top. Because all the matter of fact, there's a quote. There's this quote, because our people have been, the fact that our people are the best athletes, singers, and so on and so forth. That just comes with it, being sons and daughters of Yahweh Shema Shai. But that doesn't, define us of because we're judged. Well, you're supposed to judge a nation of people by the average citizen. You judge your nation by the Commonwealth. You don't judge your nation by the few exceptions. Now, again, these guys, LeBron James and them, again, being great athletes and so on and so forth, entertainers and all that, that just comes with, again, being sons and daughters of Yahweh Shema Shai. But that is not what defines us. But that's what we have been reduced to. And we're so much more than that. There's this quote. Let's see if I can find this. Just bear with me. Bear with me. I forgot who said it. But it's something along the lines of, Just bear with me. I forgot who said it. I'm trying to look up who said it. But the quote goes something along the lines of nigger sing, nigger dance, nigger jump, nigger die. And again, I forget who sings it, but it was a Jake that said it. Because again, being the best dancers and rappers, singers, athletes, entertainers, and all that, that just comes with it. But that's what we've been reduced to. Trying to find this. Going back to slavery, because like the scriptures go into, they require of us a song, because how these nations, that's how they look at us, just great entertainers and things of that nature. But again, man, like I keep saying, that those are just things that come with being naturally great. Those are just things that come with being sons and daughters of Yahweh Shema Shai. So naturally, we're going to be the best at everything. Again, going back to the point that I was making, with all that being said, even it's a low state, how much more when we set back up in power? And that's why, coming back into who we are, more and more, man, it's time to embrace. I often talk about how, again, being a servant of Yahweh Shema Shai, man, hey, there's a way we ought to conduct ourselves, I often say, man, hey, walk like it, talk like it, be about it, be it, you are it, because these other nations at the end of the day, they ain't shit, their opinions don't mean shit, And brothers quote this all the time. I'm gonna get it. As far as being, as far as not needing the so-called white man's validation, or for any of these people for that matter, man. Who are these people? And Brother Nahoya says it all the time. Hey, it's a good day to be an Israelite. That's why I said, because, however you look at it, the elect are going to win, and by default, all Israel is going to win. Because even though 2/3 are going to get their ass whooped, but nevertheless, they're going to come back. And they're going to be perfect. They're going to be all righteous. So, the brother says it all the time. It's a good day to be an Israelite. Right? So, embrace who you are, Jake, Because, again, man, it's like, damn, like I said, man, the fact that we earned this ass whooping. The Lord wanted, Salakia, we wanted to be like the nation so bad. Well, hey, the Lord made us subject to the servants. He made us servants to the servants, the ultimate punishment for a king, man. We earned this ass whooping. Here it is. We're sons and daughters of the Most High Power himself, the King of the universe. But we wanted to be like these less than nothings, But, the Lord had to teach ultimately the elect a lesson, like, you see? Because, you best believe, man, the elect, whoever they are crying out, like, Lord, we get it. The Lord is like, you see why I had to, you see why I had to do it? And the elect are like, Khan, we get it. Please. Isaiah 10:20. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them. So you see, because, again, we've been taught all our lives, the so-called white man, he's God, just dependent upon the so-called white man, validation of the so-called white man. All right. But we don't need his validation anymore. But what's cold about it is to the point, even the other nations and even Esau, you got Edomites out there that are, because this is the Lord reasoning with his people, The Lord has it to where even Esau, even Edomites are out there telling you that, yeah, you are the chosen people of the Lord. You know, the scriptures is your history. You know, now, of course, it's exciting, but again, we don't need, it's further confirmation for what we already believe, but we don't need Esau's validation, you know. And again, it's just like, you know, the Lord reasoning with his people. What more do you want me to you know, it's bad enough you don't want to hear from your own people, right? Hey, I've set up certain Edomites to tell you that yes, you know, you are my people. You know, the Lord is cold, man. You know, he was going into that clip, man, on this past Sunday, man. You know, that shit was cold, man. That Billy Graham clip, man, that shit was cold. You know, and even the other nations, man, they'll tell you, because they know. You know, it's really Jake, the only people that don't know who they are. You know, these other nations, they know who you are, and that's why, again, they're envy of us. You know, that's why they hate us so much. But nevertheless, they envy us, man. They you know, they just can't help but to want to be like us, man. Cop our style and so on and so forth. You know, they can't help it. You know, but it says, "But shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, in truth." So you see, man. All right, you know, yeah, like I said, it's cool to hear from the so-called white man himself, but we don't need the so-called white man's validation for shit. Who are these people? Who is Esau? Who is these people, man? You know, who are these less than nothings? All right. You know, the only entity that we're trying to please and you know, get approval of, and you know, trying to you know, impress, so to say, is Yahweh Shema Shai. All right. We can give a damn about how these other people feel, man. And Jake, man, has to have this certain decorum about himself. You know. Certain confidence about themselves, man, because the hell with these people, man. The hell with their opinions. All right, hey, I'm gonna grab this in Baruch. You know, these nations, they talk shit. Like I said, spend all type of resources to keep us down, and so on and so forth. You know, Jake has been a byword, a proverb, right? You know, the Lord made us a public shame. You know, but hey, the Lord's gonna publicly glorify his people as well. You know, the Lord embarrassed us in front of these nations, but hey, the Lord's going to glorify us in front of these nations as well. You know, I did a video on this some time ago. You know, as far as the marriage according to this world, of course, it's a joke, but the whole concept, you know, goes back to the scriptures. You know, as far as marriage, you know, the bride being you know, walk down the aisle for everyone to see and lust after. You know. You know, and that's what the Lord's going to do with his people. All right, being that we're his bride. All right, the Lord's going to show us off in front of the world, man. The same way he shamed us in front of these nations, and he's going to glorify us in front of these nations. Baruch chapter 4. Baruch chapter 4. And I'm going to start at 23. For I sent you out with mourning and weeping, but the Most High will give you to me again with joy and gladness forever. Ooh-wee. Like as now the neighbors of Zion have seen your captivity, so shall they see shortly your salvation from our power, which shall come upon you with great glory and brightness of the everlasting. So you see, man, the same way the Lord shamed us in front of all these nations, hey, the Lord's going to beautify, glorify his people. All right, I'm going to go to another one in Isaiah. And just as a sidebar, you know, because this guy, you know, as well as a lot of those Nigerians, man, they're Jakes. Not to get it confused, you know, with them Hamites, the real Africans, you know, which are Hamites, you know. But of course, a lot of our people are scattered amongst these other nations. You know, a lot of those Nigerians are Israelites. All right. But Isaiah 35. I'm going to start at 1. The wilderness and the solitary place shall be glad for them, and the desert shall rejoice and blossom as the rose. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice even with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given unto it, the excellency of Carmel and Sharon. They shall see the glory of the Lord and the excellency of our power. So you see, just making a point about these two mountains, all right, Carmel and Sharon. You know, beautiful mountains. You know, and this is what the Lord's getting ready to do. He's getting ready, as we're already in the process of, you know, the Lord's in the process of beautifying and glorifying His people. All right, so you see, the Lord's getting ready to do amazing things on the behalf of His people, starting with the elect. All right, so hey, you know, as far as Israelites, man, you know, embrace who you are. You still got chicks out here, you know, wanting to indulge in Egyptology and, you know, all these heathen customs and shit, man. You know, you know, when we come from such a rich culture, man. You know, such a beautiful heritage we have. You know. And it's like, why not embrace who you are, you know, where you come from. Because, you know, Jake wants to be a part of something so bad. Jake want to be accepted so bad, you know. But this is who we are, man. This is not a religion, all right? You have a lot of Jakes out here. You know, I was once a Hebrew Israelite, man. As if you could just stop being a Hebrew Israelite, man. You know, I was once a Hebrew Israelite. As if you could stop being an Israelite. You know, as if that's a thing, you know, you damn dummies. But I'm going to go to this in Numbers, because this says a lot coming from a heathen. Numbers 23. I'm going to just get to the point going into Balaam. Numbers 23 and 10. It says, who can count the dust of Jacob and the number of the fourth part of Israel? You see, because listen, hey, the so-called least Israelite in the kingdom is gonna make the wealthiest of the wealthiest, Rothschild, Rockefeller, you know, all them, you know, elites look like a welfare case, man. You know, the so-called least Israelite in the kingdom is gonna make the richest, wealthiest, Rothschild or Rockefeller, you know, one of those elite families, man. It's gonna make them look like a welfare case, man. You know, we're going to be so decked out, you know. It says, let them die it says, let me die the death of the righteous, and let my last and be like this, or let my last and be like his. So you see, because, hey, Balaam, the Lord gave him, you know, the vision of our end, which is like the scriptures say, the end shall be better than the beginning. You know, we have the account of Job. Look at everything that the Lord did for Job on this side, you know. The Lord gave everything back to Job and then some, which, you know, the Job represents the elect. We talk about it all the time. But look at what the Lord did for Job on this side, man. You know, not talking about the kingdom. Look what the Lord did for Job. How much more in the kingdom? You know, the Lord gave Job everything back and then some, double, you know. How much more in the kingdom? You see? So we got a lot to look forward to. You know, again, that's why, hey, man, you know, embrace, man. You know, be about it. You know, act like it, walk like it, talk like it. You know, you are this. We are this. This is who we are. You know, Scripture says that we are a nation of kings, priests. And you see that amongst Jake. Like I said, even it's a low state. You know Jake, man. Jake knows they come from a sense of royalty. Even 2/3. We know we come from a sense of royalty. This is why we dress the best. You know, this is why Jake just looks the flies, man. This is why just you know, Jake just puts the flavor in everything. You know, because imagine that on another note. Because when it comes to wickedness, boy, Jake puts flavor on that shit. You know, I said this past camp, man. You know, Jake is so goddamn wicked. You know, here it is. Because it's like, damn, Esau, we're talking about the wicked himself. Be looking at Jake, 2/3 of Jake's, man, like, damn, you know, it's like Esau be taking notes from Jake, you know, because Esau, you can see you know, just a regular Edomite, but that nigga's on a down low. You know, he'll have a family and all, wife and kids and all, and he'll be a mo, and you won't even tell for the most part. But Jake, man, you see a Jake that's a mo, man. Jake be out here rocking stilettos and everything, man. You know. Just going all out with it, man. Jake put flavor on wickedness, man. You know, it makes it look good. You know? Imagine that energy in righteousness. Man, like I said, in this lower state, imagine when the Lord sets us back up in power. When the Lord sets us back up in power in righteousness. Imagine that. Imagine that. You know, hey, it's all about the Israelites. Everything operates off of the tune, the vibration, the energy of the Israelites. All right. You know, the word is for you, Israel. You know, and it's time to conquer, man. Get ready to conquer. You know, everything operates off of our vibration. All right, 12 everything, you know, 12 everything, 12 hours in a day, 12 hours in a night, 12 months in a year, just 12 everything, you know, 12 gates, right, in the kingdom of heaven, just 12 everything. You know, everything operates off of the Israelites, man, the vibration of the Israelites. You know, the scriptures talk about how the world was divided into 12 parts. Everything operates off the vibration of the Israelites, man. You know, we see it all the time. I remember there was a point when, you know, brothers were celebrating, you know, certain of those holiday events, you know, because there was no such thing at one point where you have it now, unlike now, you know, because now you see about St. Patrick's Day and all these so-called holidays, and there's mass shootings and this and that. That stuff wasn't going on when brothers were partaking in that stuff. You know, but now that brothers aren't operating in that vibration anymore, this is why that spirit is dead, man. You know, the spirit of this world is languishing. Because the Lord has retracted his men. You know, we see it downtown Orlando every weekend. We see it downtown because, you know, at one point we will fellowship downtown. You know, it would, you know, for the most part it'd be popping, but you know, now, you know, we don't fellowship anymore as far as the downtown setting, and that's just dead. You know, that's just completely dead. And you know, now there's been even more shootings and things going on. So, you know, just to make the point how, hey, the Lord moves on the behalf of his men. All right, the Lord moves on the behalf of his elect, because again, the whole world operates off of our vibration. Lord willing, we are that number. So, hey, embrace this shit, man. Embrace it. This is who we are. You know, another point I tend to make is, hey, man, you know, because you know, Jake can't even look himself in the mirror because, you know, Jake has such low self-esteem. Nah, man, look yourself in the mirror, man, and hey, you know, you are the shit, brother. You are the shit. All right. You are the shit. Make no mistake about it. Now, of course, I always say it's a thing of confidence and not cockiness. All right. You know, because that's where the pride comes in. That's where pride comes in, you know. When you thinking it's of you, you know, your power, your hand. You know, that's where the pride comes in. You know, you think it's all about you. Nah, man, you know, we have every right to be arrogant. All right. In righteousness, you know, everything's done in righteousness. All right. You see, knowing who we serve, who we work for. You know, like King David, man. Hey, King David, he knew that the Lord was with him wherever he went. You know, you read about the legacy of our forefathers, man, and we're coming back into that same legacy. So, hey, the hell with this world and these people, what they think, how they feel, you know. You are the shit, brother. We are the shit. You know, it's all about Israel. All right. The Lord didn't change his mind. All right. All nations are, you know, not granted salvation. The hell with these nations. You know, get ready for slavery. Esau, get ready for slavery. It's just that point blank period. It's just that simple. All right. I'm going to go to one last one in Psalm 68 and 34. Ascribe ye strength unto the Most High power. His excellency is over Israel, and his strength is in the clouds. Talking about them chariots. All right. It's all about Israel. All right. Hell, the chariots of Israel. Why is it referred to? Why are the chariots known as the chariots of Israel? Why aren't they known as the chariots over the other nations? The chariots of Moab, the chariots of Ammon, so on and so forth. Why are they only known as far as a particular nation? Because the chariots have many names, you know. But why are they only known as the chariots of Israel? It's all about Israel. Verse 35. O power, thou art terrible out of thy holy places. The power of Israel is he that giveth strength and power unto his people. Blessed be our power, man. Blessed be the Most High power. Barakatah Yahweh Bashem Shai, the power of Israel. All right. Yeah, you know, you can't make this up, man. You know, all throughout the scriptures, it's about Israel, Israel, Israel. All right. You know, from Genesis to Revelation, it's about Israel. Hell, like I mentioned, you know, the 12 gates with the names of the 12 tribes of Israel. That's mentioned in the book of Revelation. That's the end. You know, so from Genesis to Revelation, it's all about Israel, man. You know, so take pride, man. You know, take pride in who you are. You know, embrace who you are. Like I say, walk like it, talk like it, act like it, be about it, man. This is who we are. Fuck this world and these people and what they feel. We don't care about no one's opinions. We don't need no one's of validation, man. You know, it's a beautiful thing to be a part of, man. This is a beautiful legacy, a rich, wealthy legacy, man. What better place is there to be? Where else is there to go? What better place is there to be, man? You know, the Lord wanted this was edifying and uplifting, giving all praises to Yahweh Bashem Shai. Shalom to you elect.